Another 2-0 win, 11th Champions League semi-final in 13 seasons for them. Never in any real danger of losing here. Given that we've spoken about Madrid a little bit already, let's talk Chelsea. Not going to see them in the Champions League for a while, Charlie. 4 defeats from 4 from Frank Lampard, but maybe this was the best of the bunch. He actually came with a plan, albeit a slightly strange one.
Yeah,
it worked for a bit.
It did, yeah. I mean, it's obviously, it's bad when you're at the point of kind of celebrating a plan working for half a game and only losing 2-0. But obviously they were playing the best, the European champions. Yeah, I mean, they did have some sort of plan. I mean, I wonder, they don't play on the weekend because they're meant to play United, so that game's moved. So they've got a week before Brentford and then another week before Arsenal because of that game being moved. So maybe there's a bit of time to get a few ideas to the players. Maybe that's being generous to Frank Lampard. I'm sure some people say, what ideas? But yeah, I mean, I have to say, like most people, I was pretty staggered when I saw the team sheet. I mean, the amount of attacking players Chelsea brought in at huge expense over the last few years is genuinely incredible to then line up with essentially one attacker in a game like this. I mean, really, really amazing. And then to think the players that weren't even on the bench that they've brought in for reasonable money, and people like Lukaku out on loan. But yeah, I think you're at the season's now over in any meaningful sense. So I don't know I guess it's people trying to make the case that they should be kept on in the summer, because it sounds like Chelsea are going to have to make some sales.
I mean, I think the sight of Modric, Felix and Sterling all coming on as a triple sub is, if you want to sum up Chelsea 2022-23, that is it really. I mean, it didn't make any difference and, there's a lot of money there. So, yeah, I mean, I think you'd think João Felix now, they're not going to buy him, so why even play him, really? I mean, sort of make a team out of what's going to be there next year, if you can. But
I mean, Modric at least looks like he has a lot of potential. I know he's very rough around the edges, and this game was quite symptomatic of how he's been. It's almost there. It's just the end product isn't quite, like when he ran through and missed, though he was offside. So at least he's someone, maybe, as Duncan says, I would certainly be playing him over João Felix, who's not going to be there anyway.
Not often that Thiago Silva's wife gets upstaged by Thiago Silva in terms of viral content, Joey. He was critical of what's happened this year, and obviously it's been a calamitous first year. Do you have a theory on what the Bowley Clear Lake strategy is?
I mean, the more I think about it, the worse I think it gets. I mean, just to take an example, there'll be no European football next season. Say you were in the Europa Conference League, that would be a good opportunity to play your 30-person squad. If you don't shift a load of that deadwood over the summer, you're going to end up with a huge squad of unhappy players, which isn't just a problem in the dressing room. It means you're sort of depressing the transfer values of all these players that you want to then sell for financial fair play and all these other reasons. We hear a lot about this date of June the 30th, where there might have to be a fire sale of Chelsea players, but then obviously all the vultures are circling, trying to pick up a bargain. These players that they signed for 60 million, 40 million, they're going to be worth half that now. They've been playing if they've been playing at all, they've been playing in a very poor team. I think things are going to might get worse before they get better for Chelsea. It must be a weird feeling as a Chelsea fan to just have absolutely nothing to play for in those last few games. They can't have had that. I suppose there's that dreadful season.
It's 7 games, right? It's not a couple of games. It's a long old run.
Well, it's also how low can they finish in the Premier League? I mean, they're on 39 points now. Palace are closing in. Wolves are closing in. Bournemouth are closing in. It's I mean, they're not going to go down, but they could finish probably as low as 14th unless something changes.
The thing is, as well, with the sales, only really Premier League clubs will be able to afford a lot of these players. And how much do they want to be? I mean, they won't have a choice, but how much do they want to be selling these players to potential rivals?
But also, they're the only players who they're going to get much interest in or money for and will show as profit on the books, right, are players that they probably don't want to be losing, like Mason Mount, Conor Gallagher. You're not going to find people wanting to take Hakim Ziyech and Christian Pulisic's wages.
Exactly that. Like the amount of players they have who... And those guys cost a lot of money. Like they were not cheap. They were, in the sort of 60 million bracket. So...
And they'd probably blow the wage structure of any mid-table Premier League club.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how this plays out. I know clubs always find a way of sort of making these things make sense financially. But this feels like it's going to be a real challenge.
The Totally Football Show podcast is available 3 times a week, bringing you all the football news you could reasonably be expected to care about. We've got views, we've got stats, we've got analysis, we've got some of the best football writers around, and the whole thing is absolutely free. So have a listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or all the usual places by clicking on the link below.